You're listening to The Pilot's Portfolio, formerly called the Pilot Money Podcast. To learn more about the name change, join us in Season 2.
When open enrollment comes, that is your time to choose. And it's important to make decisions that work with your overall financial plan because you're essentially locked into the decisions that you make until next year's open enrollment.
You're listening to the Pilot Money Podcast, the show dedicated to guiding professional pilots towards a future of financial success and stability. Fly along with your host, Timothy P. Pope, as he provides financial planning insights and answers to your burning questions and dives into real-life stories from fellow pilots who share their successes and cautionary tales. The Pilot Money Podcast takes off now.
Well, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Pilot Money Podcast. Hanging on to that name for a few more shows, and I think we're getting close to selecting the new name for the new show, so stay tuned. Glad to have you guys here with us. My name is Timothy P. Pope, certified financial planner specializing in the planning needs of the professional pilots. I cannot believe that we essentially have 2 more months of 2024. It's like, wow, where did the time fly? So it is fall time. That means in our practice, we're doing fall reviews. That means at home, you are seeing email messages from your airline and your company about open enrollment. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode is open enrollment. Open enrollment, it's that time of year where you get to review and choose for the next year your benefit package. And companies are providing just very generous benefit packages, right? From your own health insurance, vision, dental, life insurances, right? Down to the vet insurance for your pet, right? So if you have a furry friend, companies are offering insurances to them as well. And so when open enrollment comes, that is your time to choose. And it's important to, make decisions that work with your overall financial plan because you're essentially locked into the decisions that you make until next year's open enrollment. There's a handful of circumstances that would allow you to change your benefits mid-year, such as if you get married or if there's a divorce or if a new baby was born in your family or maybe you adopted, if there's a death in the family, job change, that's another one. So there's all these circumstances that if they happen to you, you can change your benefits. But outside of that, typically once you choose them, you've got to wait for the next year. So let's talk about some of the common benefits in your open enrollment package. I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts around these. We have received an email. So Matt, thank you for the email requesting an episode where we set the company benefits side by side with the union benefits. So we're going to do a deep dive on that topic in a future episode. So thanks for requesting that. So when most folks think about open enrollment, we're thinking about medical benefits. And I mean, most of your airlines are going to have like 3 to 5 medical plans for you to choose from. Okay. So it's a lot. And if you're looking at it and what is this deductible? What is this out of pocket maximum? What is this co-share or copay? What is this tier 1 or 2 or 3 drug kind of thing? So, you're looking at this and if it's not something that you're super familiar with, it can seem Greek. But with medical plans, I think they come in a couple of different flavors. And I know as a pilot, one of the things that you're thinking about is, how do I reduce my taxes? I'm in this high income W-2 position. How do I reduce my taxes? Well, with the medical plans, there is a plan that has an HSA benefit. Okay, and I'm going to walk through how this works. I'm not saying that you should go run out and grab the HSA because it's not for everybody. But the HSA is one of those ways. It is a tool that you can use to lower your taxable income. And here's the thing. It's hard to forecast your health going forward over the next year, to be honest. And so when I work with clients that think about HSAs, we've got to start with, do we have any known expenses? Is someone in the family, do they have a known medical condition that requires a bit more care? Does someone in the family have a specific medicine that's more expensive, but on your current plan, you have a relatively small copay, but if you were to switch, that would jump up. So those are things to know. Maybe are you expecting a baby next year, right? So you're going to have all these doctor visits and then you're going to deliver at the hospital. Babies aren't free. We've had our fair share. We've got a handful of kids, right? So if you have these known expenses, then sometimes that is enough to say, look, maybe next year the HSA is not for us. HSA, by the way, stands for Health Savings Account. And the thing with the HSA is it is tied to a high deductible health plan. Typically, what you see is you're going to see lower premiums on your high deductible health plan. But if and when you have to use the insurance, you're going to be on the hook for a larger portion of those first dollars before the insurance company is going to kick in, right? So that's your deductible. Sometimes you can also see higher out-of-pocket maximums as well. So in a worst-case scenario, how much would you have to pay before the insurance company takes all of the healthcare costs after that? So we want to check, right? And if you don't have any known costs that are going to present an issue, we take a look at the individual and the family deductibles just to make sure that those are within the scope of reason. And then we cross-check the emergency fund. So if you had a worst-case scenario, would you be able to satisfy this out-of-pocket maximum? If you're doing your emergency fund well, yes, you should be able to satisfy your health insurance deductible. You should be able to satisfy your out-of-pocket maximum as well. So what makes the HSA attractive is, one, we get a tax deduction whenever we make a contribution, right? So in 2025, the family contribution limit is going to be $8,550. All right. So we can pass go, no income tax, no payroll tax. We can reduce our income by $8,550. The individual contribution limit is going to be $4,300. The nice thing is, and this is my preferred method of using the HSA, is we make those contributions. We can invest those dollars that we contribute to the HSA. And then sometime later, after the money has grown, then we can use those dollars for qualified medical expenses. So every year or almost every year, Fidelity publishes a study, healthcare costs, right? If you're a couple, you're retiring at age 65, the probability shows that you can spend $285,000. At least that was the number like a year or two ago, $285,000 on healthcare. So chances are that you're going to use this HSA money. Why not get a tax deduction on the front end? Why not allow it to grow tax deferred? And then it comes out tax free as long as we use it for qualified medical expense. So you could think about the HSA kind of like a Roth IRA for health expenses. However, it's even better because the Roth IRA, the money that you've put in that you've paid taxes on. The money that you've put in the HSA, you do not pay taxes on, and you're not going to pay taxes on as long as you use it, for qualified medical expenses. So that's the thing with the HSA. You got to have a high deductible plan. Typically, we're going to see lower premiums. Unless you're at NetJets, and you're going to see no premium high deductible plans. You have access to an HSA. So at that point, you're just looking at the deductible and the out-of-pocket maximums. We want to make sure it makes sense for us, right? So do a cross-check. Do we have any known expenses? Are we expecting any future expenses next year? Are there any medicines or treatments or therapies that would run up a bill? And if all of those things come clean, then maybe the HSA makes sense for us. Now, what happens if you decide the HSA is not for you? There's still a medical plan there. It's called the FSA, so flexible spending account. It's similar to the HSA, but it has several key differences, right? Contributions are much lower. The FSA has a use it or lose it provision. So you can't invest the money in the FSA. Typically, you have to use the dollars by the end of the year. Or if your plan allows a grace period, then, you have to use it by mid-March of the following year. You do get a tax deduction for the money that you put into the FSA, but you're also going to need to use the money soon. In the case where, maybe it didn't make sense for me to do the HSA because I didn't want to move to the high deductible plan, but I'm still looking for a tax break. Maybe I'm looking at the FSA. If you have kids, they do after school, or you got daycare cost or things like that. The dependent care FSA you can also use, but again, contributions are lower. You have that use it or lose it provision, can't invest the funds. Just make sure it makes sense. Like for me, I'm thinking, look, if you're using this money anyway, then we might as well get the tax deduction on it. If you're not using that money in that manner, then I wouldn't necessarily go run out and sign up for these plans. So medical benefits, a big takeaway is the HSA and the FSA. See which ones work for you and then plan accordingly. The other thing that you're going to have the opportunity to sign up for is the insurance benefits in terms of life insurance. Okay. So each of the major carriers, you get a base group coverage. So United gives you a multiple of your hourly rate. Southwest American Delta gives you just a chunk of life insurance benefit. And so, and the company pays for that. You just have to pay the imputed income on the amount that's over $50,000. And then you're going to get this opportunity to do the voluntary life insurance, right? So you can plus that up. You can either do it with the company, you could do it with the union, and then you can get, insurances for your spouse and for your kids and so on and so forth. So I like to just look at that. I mean, most pilots, depending on where you are, depending on what your goals are, most of you guys end up needing more life insurance. And then the question is, where do I get it, right? If you're just going to work, you're flying your jet, you're coming home, you're not in the Guard, you're not doing business aviation, you're not flying GA on the side, most any insurance company is going to work for you. And the universe there is huge. You start to do military, you start to do other GAs. Now we need exclusions. And now we're going to look for something special. With the insurance benefit, the other thing I'd say too is if your spouse has had difficulty getting their own insurance, maybe they have health issues that come up on the screenings, what you could do is you can sign them up for the spousal insurance. And typically there's a maximum amount that you can do that does not need a health screening. So get that. And then every year you could increase it. It might be like by $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever. And you can just increase it incrementally a year by year. And that way you can avoid the health screening. If your spouse has had trouble getting life insurance because of something that comes up on the health screening, I would not recommend you come in and apply for the maximum. They will send you the health screening and you're going to go through everything and then that issue will still show up. So that's the thing with life insurance. The other thing too is, if you say, well, look, I need more insurance, and you can look at what the company offers. You can also look at what the union offers. What I've usually found, particularly with both the company and the union, but especially on some of the union benefits, life insurance, is when you extend out the premiums for whatever life insurance you want, the numbers are just glaringly, they get very, very expensive. Because what the union does is they will put you in a group term. And so they have these age brackets, and then the cost of insurance just goes up. The older you are, the more it is. So if you're somebody who maybe you've retired in the military, did not get a survivor benefit on the pension, and you're planning to solve that issue with life insurance, you're probably not going to want to plus up the life insurance with the union benefit. There's no way you're going to hold that policy for as long as you would need to make it make sense. And so run the premiums out, see if it makes sense to hold that kind of policy or if it makes sense to hold something yourself. Outside of life insurances, there's going to be other things like hospital indemnity and other insurances. And everybody's case is different, but typically when I look at these things, I just say, look, probably it doesn't make sense to go just because the company's offering to go sign up for it. So let's just make sure there's a use case and we actually need some of that stuff before we sign up for it. Moving on, legal benefits, that is something to look at. It's fairly cost effective. Research shows 60% of Americans do not have estate documents, guardianships for minor children, living will, and your last will, testament, right? And so all of those documents work together to create your estate plan. Legal benefits are extremely affordable. And there are cases where you might want, I really need a specialist to work in this case. Maybe we're working through a special needs child case, right? So how do we set benefits up for them for their long-term success? So maybe we want a specialist who deals with special needs children. Maybe the case is this is a second marriage. There's substantial assets. There's children from the previous marriage, and we need things to flow specifically. So maybe we get somebody that specializes, right? And the legal benefit is a really good place to start. And so definitely look at that if you haven't taken advantage of it, or if you've taken advantage of it and you had your documents drafted many years ago before you moved to this current home or before you had your last kid or something like that, right? It might be time to update that. So take a look at the legal benefit there. In terms of just open enrollment overall, it's a really good opportunity to coordinate benefits between spouses. So if you've got two incomes coming in, don't always assume that one company just provides substantially better benefits than the other. They might have individual strengths. And so you can use the open enrollment period as an opportunity to just coordinate those benefits between companies and see which ones from which company would suit the family better, and also how they flow into your overall financial plan. I mean, last year we were working with a couple. They had, up until that point, just divided and conquered. And it was really interesting. I mean, they ended up saving, when we were done coordinating benefits between the spouses, they were saving 5 figures per year, which was super cool to see. Chances are that may not happen to you. It doesn't happen to everybody, but that was super cool to see that just, organizing and coordinating the benefits had such a big impact. And like I said, there is value in these benefit packages, and it really depends on how you select them. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is use Open Enrollment as an opportunity to just review your 401k. You can actually update your 401k elections, how much you're contributing throughout the year. You can change whether you're going from pre-tax to post-tax throughout the year, but it's a great time to look at it. How is your 401k set up? How much are you contributing? Is it time to switch from Roth to go pre-tax because your incomes have been increasing, or we expect your income to increase next year? Did your company add any new investment options or remove any investment options from the menu? Check your beneficiaries on the 401k and on all the life insurances. It's a really good time. It's not spring cleaning, it's fall cleaning, I guess. Just take a look at the open enrollment, at the benefits, at your elections, and do they make sense for you? So one thing I didn't cover, maybe we should do a deep dive on this at some point, is all the long-term disability. You have the company disability, and then typically you have through the union or other insurances that you can plus that up, right? And so does it make sense for you to do that? And if so, which one should you choose? I found it depends. Do you only fly for the company? Do you do other things? Do you have other revenue sources that also include flying? And so that usually will impact the decision there, or at least how I advise clients. So with that is open enrollment. Complete your due diligence, right? Make sure you don't leave any tax savings on the table. Be proactive, understand how the benefits factor into your overall plan, and then choose wisely. So with that, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Pilot Money Podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for joining this episode of Pilot's Portfolio. If you found this information helpful, spread the word and share it with a Pilot buddy. Or if you have questions and there's something that you would like to hear discussed on the show, send us an email. You can find the address in the show notes. For those of you who are ready to learn how we help professional pilots with their financial planning needs, schedule an appointment. Until next time, keep the shiny side up, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Pilot's Portfolio is hosted by Timothy P. Pope. Timothy P. Pope is principal owner of 360 Aviation Advisors. 360 Aviation Advisors is a registered investment advisory firm regulated by the state of North Carolina in accordance and compliance to the securities laws and regulations. 360 Aviation Advisors does not render or offer to render personalized investment or tax advice through Pilot's Portfolio. The information provided is for informational purposes only and may not be suitable for all investors and does not constitute financial, tax, investment, or legal advice. All investments involve a degree of risk, including the risk of loss.